going to reconvene for the regular meeting of the Martinez Unified School District Board of Education. We have a report out from closed session on 2 items. It is the recommendation of the superintendent that the board non-reelect from employment for the 2018-2019 school year 2 certificated employees. In closed session on a motion by Member Fuller and seconded by Member McLaughlin, the board voted 5-0 to non-reelect from employment for the 2018-19 school year 2 certified employees. Certificated employees, and directed the superintendent to notify these employees of such action. Additionally, in closed session on a motion by Member McLaughlin and seconded by Member Seguenza, the board voted 5-0 to accept the resignation of 6 certificated employees effective June 8, 2018. We will now move for the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's see, who in the room should lead today? Let's just go for it. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. On to agenda item 7, approval of agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda for this evening?
There are no changes at this time.
The agenda stands as approved. On to approval of minutes, agenda item 8 for meeting of February 26, 2018. This was a regular meeting. Any questions, comments from the board? Student representative, you were absent, I believe. Okay, thanks for the reminder. Do we have a motion to approve? Any comment from the public for approval of minutes? Seeing none, back to the board.
I move we approve the minutes of February 26, 2018 as presented.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Those opposed? Any abstentions? Student representative, thank you. We will now have presentations. For agenda item 9.1 is CSEA Employees of the Year recognition. CJ?
Thank you. This is a very fun event for us at the administrative level and for the board. This is the board meeting each year where we honor our CSEA Employees of the Year. And one quote that I have come across that was not attributed to me, it was somebody who was a 2009 National Classified Employee of the Year, I think sums up what classified employees mean to our district. And what I would say is, on behalf of all of our administrators and all of our students, to each of our classified members, is that we owe you an incredible debt. And I think it is captured appropriately in this quote, which is, support staff represent nearly half of all employees in our nation's school districts. Simply put, schools cannot operate without us, teachers cannot teach without us, and students cannot succeed without us. And I believe that statement is incredibly true of our local classified employees. They are a backbone of what we do day in and day out, and they are a huge part of the success for every student in Martinez Unified. So it is my pleasure to honor the classified employees from each site or program. We're going to start with Alhambra High School. I'm going to read a small portion of what was submitted in their nomination. For Alhambra High School, we are recognizing Maureen French. Time and again, Maureen comes to the rescue at Alhambra High School. Her knowledge of ARIES and ability to troubleshoot problems when things go wrong keeps us afloat. Around campus, everybody knows that if they need to query data or have ARIES questions, that she is the go-to person. She plays a crucial role when we develop the master schedule, helping on the technical aspects and data inputting. Without her help, the master schedule building process would take much longer and it would still be a mess. As the first contact people make in the counseling office, Maureen is welcoming and provides an excellent first impression of the school. She is thorough in her work, and her attention to detail captures small things like odd residency details that might otherwise be missed. And while not a formal part of her job description, she keeps our counseling department sane. Thank you, Ms. French. Congratulations. Next, we'll move to Martinez Junior High School, where it's my pleasure to recognize Christy Heeb. Christy Heeb is one of many unsung heroes at Martinez Junior High School. In her role as a paraeducator, Christy is well liked by the students and very much appreciated by the staff. She is organized and flexible. She is more than willing to make adjustments because it's what's best for the students. Christy truly embodies putting the students first. She provides unlimited amounts of love and support for the entire school population, and many of the students seek her out for this reason alone. In the classroom, Christy will often go out of her way to ensure a student has the necessary materials for class, as well as to make sure all the students are prepared for projects and tests. When students need accommodations on assignments, she is creative and thoughtful in coming up with ways to adjust the curriculum for each individual while still helping them reach a high standard of success on the assignment. Christy works patiently but diligently to push each of her students to their highest potential. No excuse is acceptable, only their very best effort. This is because she always has the end goal in mind, to prepare her students for going beyond Martinez Junior High School. Cool-headed and big-hearted. These qualities alone make Christy Heeb extremely deserving of being MJHS's Classified Employee of the Year. Congratulations, Christy. Our next honoree tonight is from Vicente Briones, Kristen Canapea. Kristen Canapea joined the Vicente team as campus supervisor at the start of the 2017-18 school year after serving at John Sweat Elementary as an instructional aide. Kristen is welcoming to all students and has built strong relationships with students which have allowed them to trust and confide in her. She takes the initiative, is communicative, asks questions, and is able to handle situations with confidence. She is dependable, humorous, friendly, kind, and a role model for our students. We greatly appreciate Kristen's service to the Vicente community, and that is why we recognize her as our Vicente Briones Classified Person of the Year. Congratulations, Kristen. Our next honoree is from John Muir Elementary, Miriam Flores. Miriam Flores is John Muir Elementary's nominee for Classified Employee of the Year. Miriam goes above and beyond for students. She is prepared to teach her groups. She can handle behaviors as they arrive, and our students thrive from her instruction. She is consistent with rewards and consequences, and she plans and carries out thoughtful and educational art projects. She is a team player, gives productive feedback, stays positive, and supports her team and students any way she can. We are fortunate to have her on our team at John Muir Elementary School. Congratulations, Miriam. Our next honoree is from John Sweat Elementary, Joanne Bucciolato. In the words of her colleagues, Joanne is amazing and deals with so many issues all day long, every day. She makes everyone's job so much easier, and she always helps when needed. Joanne does so much organizing for fundraisers and the auction for the PTA. She is so kind to the kids and keeps the office running smoothly. She tracks things down and supports staff. Last year, she cooked staff lunch every Friday in March. She's a warm, caring human and has an enormous heart. She is always taking care of staff members as well as the greater John Swett community. Joanne always goes above and beyond helping all of our families, inviting a family to Christmas dinner, walking parents through paperwork multiple times for their children's benefit, and the list goes on and on. Joanne is truly the glue that makes the John Swett community a family. Congratulations, Joanne Buccellato. Our next honoree tonight is Tammy White from Las Juntas Elementary School. Las Juntas would like to nominate Tammy White as the LJE Classified Employee of the Year for 2017-18. Tammy is a dedicated paraeducator with an incredible passion for helping our students in our special day class. She quickly builds a positive rapport with our students and truly enjoys making a difference at our school. Tammy goes above and beyond to help where and when it's needed, and always with a smile on her face and a can-do attitude. Each day is unique and lively in her role, and she wouldn't have it any other way. She is a bullpup through and through, and we are so grateful to have her at Las Juntas Elementary School. Congratulations, Tammy White. Our next honoree is Amy Wallace from Martinez Adult Education. Amy has served staff and students in the ESL department at Martinez Adult Ed for 5 years. Her work goes far beyond the typical duties in similar roles in that daily she is the warm welcome and friendly smile that first greets new and nervous students from nearly 50 countries around the world with limited or no English speaking abilities. One by one, she individually administers placement tests in speaking, listening, reading, and writing, and helps students fill out enrollment paperwork. This she does single-handedly while both her supervisors are in the classroom. Somehow, simultaneously, she expertly accomplishes the normal day-to-day tasks of running a school office and assisting students and instructional staff. And if that were not enough, she also masterminds our complex testing, assessment, data collection, and data entry systems. Her attention to detail and problem-solving skills have saved hours of work for the program and school and helped us capture the data we need to ensure for the future funding for our programs. Finally, she does this all with patience, kindness, and a serving spirit. The staff and students are so fortunate to have Amy because she is A, amazingly able, I, independently intelligent, M, merrily meticulous, E, earnestly enthusiastic, E, every time. Congratulations, Amy. We did get word that Amy was home with the flu. I promise I won't eat Hershey's candy. Yes. Our next honoree is from our food service department, Angela Farmer. Angela Farmer consistently goes the extra mile to ensure that the meals provided to her students not only fuel them for academic success, but that they appeal to their developing taste buds. She takes the initiative to provide insight within the food service department on ways to provide extra value and care to the students of Martinez Unified School District. Her extra effort, dedication, and contributions are an important key to the success of our food service operations and the overall well-being of our students. Thank you, Angela, and congratulations. And last but not least is the Morello Park representative and honoree, Jared Riddell. Jared goes above and beyond his custodial role to support the Morello community. Jared is spoken of with the highest regards in our community. Jared knows every child by name, past and present. He interacts with children during the day, and it's not uncommon to see Jared working the check-in table each year at the father-daughter dance, among other special occasions. Jared is an avid reader. He loves sharing his passion for reading by reading to our students at Morello. Not only does Jared volunteer for many evening and weekend events, he has volunteered at other school sites to support our students. Jared was Elvis for our Alhambra High School grad night, bringing much joy to the students and staff. Jared is an important part of our positive school climate. He is the mystery person behind our school mascot, putting himself in a hot and stuffy costume to bring smiles to our children. Jared's innovative ideas contribute to our positive climate and also our culture of putting children's needs first. Jared consoles the child as he cleans up the vomit or reassures the child who is crying because of spilled milk in the cafeteria. He even gently can give a Band-Aid to a hurt child. Children talk to Jared about their celebrations and some about their problems. He's an outstanding male role model, and to some, the only positive male role model they currently have in their life. The children respect him and realize that he works hard for them and makes our school a great place to learn. Jared is trustworthy and deeply respected by the children. He maintains confidentiality and provides students opportunities to be leaders. As Walt Disney said, you can design, create, and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it takes people to make the dream a reality. Jared makes dreams come true through his never-ending dedication to make Morello an amazing place for children. And as I congratulate Jared, this has been announced, but important to recognize, Jared will be representing Martinez Unified School District in the countywide Classified Employee of the Year competition. Congratulations, Jared. To the families of all of those honored tonight, we thank you as well, because we know that these individuals dedicate a great amount of time and care to their work, and we appreciate that which you share them with us. So thank you all for being here and recognizing our employees.
Um, I too want to express my deep appreciation for all the work that our classified employees do. Our schools wouldn't run without you working diligently every day. We do have a speaker card for this item. Kevin Stein, would you please approach?
Good evening. My name is Kevin Stein. I am the chapter president for Martinez 99 of CSEA. I want to congratulate all of our winners. They are all amazing people. I know a whole bunch about all of them, and I look forward to the day when they retire and I can give a wonderful speech at the retirement party. I wanted to share with everybody something our state superintendent of schools said about classified school employees. Classified employees make schools work and they care for students. They have official duties and they also have smiles for the students. Our classified people are part of the overall school team. There is a mutual respect and support between the administrators and the workers on the front line who do the day-to-day work. So our classified employees, they do a great job. They feed our kids. They make sure our kids are safe. They do a great job. And this year, the CSEA has chosen the heartbeat of our schools as the Classified School Employee Week, which is the third full week in May that's recognizes in the state classified school employees. So these are all our winners today are definitely the heartbeats of our school. And I have another announcement, which is 2 of our award winners have actually been picked for a day in our life recognition, where there's going to possibly be a film crew that's going to come over and follow Jared and Joanne through their day as they do their daily work to show what a day in the life of a classified school employee looks like. And once it's all the way done, it will actually be on TV. So when I have more information about when, where, all that other stuff, I will, of course, let the board and let CJ know so that anyone who wants to be part of the process and the interviews and everything can be doing that. So thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you to all of our CSEA represented employees. Thank you all for attending. If you're here to support your friends and family, you're more than welcome to stay. I understand why some of our youngest attendees may not want to hang out for the rest of the meeting. It's wonderful to see our youngest audience members. Always welcome. Thank you, everybody. Absolutely. It is indeed. So moving on to agenda item number 10, comments from our student representative. It's wonderful to see you tonight, Juliet.
Nice to see all of you too. I missed you guys. I'm glad I'm back. Without further ado, these are our school reports for tonight. Buckle up because they're pretty long. Okay, from Las Huntes. The week of February 26th to March 2nd was full of activities and excitement related to Dr. Seuss and Read Across America, organized by our wonderful librarian, Tracy Urich. We enjoyed Spirit Days, 25-cent book sales, and many guest readers from our community. On March 2nd, our 4th graders had an amazing field trip to the 49ers STEM Museum at Levi Stadium. On Wednesday, March 7th, our 5th graders proudly performed We Remember MLK Jr., a musical for our school and 5th grade parents. Mrs. Castaneda reviewed safety procedures and upcoming drills at the PTA and school site council meetings last week. In upcoming events, on March 16th, there will be an ELAC meeting from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Dine and Donate, Chipotle, March 13th, 4 to 8 p.m. Bring flyer. Open house STEAM experience will be on March 29th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. From John Muir. Family reading night was enjoyed by all who attended. The school book fair was a huge success. In upcoming events, the USAF Band of the Golden West brass section will be performing Tuesday for 3rd through 5th grades. John Muir ELAC meeting is March 15th at 3 p.m. John Muir PTA meeting will be March 15th at 6 p.m. First and second grades will have a Celtic performance on March 16th at 8:20 and 9:15. From John Sweat. 4th graders enjoyed a field trip to the Oakland Museum. They had an awesome campus cleanup last weekend with lots of parents, staff, and students making everything look beautiful, especially back in our garden. 2nd grade had a successful Famous Americans Day with wonderful speeches and costumes. The book fair is going on all week. Spirit Week is happening this week with a different theme every day. There will be a PTA meeting on March 15th at 7 p.m. Career Day will take place in kindergartens on March 23rd. And the fun run for PE is March 28th from 8:30 to 11. From Morello Park. Coffee with the principal included information on emergency drills, evacuation, and reunification. All employees have been trained, and Mrs. Joslin will be training our on-site daycares in case there is an emergency during the day. Harvest of the month. All children tried various types of cucumbers this month. Many classes have visited the water treatment plant this past month. Fame lessons are underway. During Buddy Day, children brought great games from home to play with their buddies. In our GATE class after school, students are studying aerodynamics. Happy Birthday Dr. Seuss Week was a success. And upcoming events. Eagle Reading Book Delivery is this week. There will be a PTA meeting tomorrow night focusing on emergency preparedness. Back to School Night will take place on March 29th from 6 to 7 p.m. The United States Air Force Band Assembly will take place on March 14th at 9:30 a.m. in the multi-use room for grades 3 through 5. From Martinez Junior High. Last week, we held our class meetings with each grade level to review expectations for the remainder of the year. 8th graders have been busy signing up online for their AHS classes for next year. This week is Spirit Week in preparation for our upcoming spring dance on Friday, March 16th. Monday is Hawaiian Day, Tuesday is Disney Day, Wednesday is Crazy Socks Day, Thursday is Sports Day, and Friday is Wear Green Day. The spring dance is Friday, March 16th for all 7th and 8th graders from 6 to 8 p.m. From Alhambra High School. Students are in the process of selecting their courses for next year. Alhambra successfully hosted the Blacklight Dance this weekend. On Wednesday at 10 a.m., there will be a student-initiated demonstration to show support for the Never Again movement founded by the students of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Prom will be held on May 19th at the Regency Ballroom. And the amazingly talented cast of Alhambra's spring musical, The Drowsy Chaperone, is deep in rehearsals. Mark your calendars for April 25th through the 28th and prepare for a happy, funny show with great music and singers. From Vicente Martinez and Briones Independent Study. Lobes and Fishes has invited Vicente students to apply for their culinary academy. They presented to students about the academy on March 2nd. Students continued work with identifying and building upon their strengths through another Strengths Finder workshop on March 6th. Rising Sun Energy is offering our students summer employment opportunities. They presented to students on March 7th. Miss Eaton's United States History students held debates about whether the New Deal was a success or failure. History students visited the San Francisco Maritime Museum on March 8th. 10 senior Vicente and Briones students attended Get Real Day to learn about life after high school. We have welcomed Matthew Brecht, a student teacher from St. Mary's College. Mr. Brecht is working with Miss Eaton's class this semester. On March 12th, 6 students will be starting participation in a confidence and self-esteem building program called Feet First. In upcoming events, March 13th will be an all-in day at Vicente, encouraging all students to attend school for a 100% attendance rate school-wide. Incentives and prizes will be provided. Vicente certificated and classified staff will work with seeds for the upcoming Staff Development Day on March 13th. Staff will continue their work on restorative conversations and practices. A DVC field trip will take place on March 15th. From Martinez Adult School. We had a soft opening to our CAS office, Career, Academic, and Support Services. Students toured the office and were introduced to the services provided on career, college, and services. 4 of our teachers and the director participated in a 2-day training at Los Medanos College on the new World of Work curriculum and received certification as instructors of the new curriculum on essential skills. Our students will not have the opportunity to earn badges based on completing competencies in a variety of essential workplace skill. Indian education. Our 2018 Outdoor Heritage Camp registration forms were emailed this week. New networking hiring event will take place on Wednesday, March 14th from 12:15 to 1:15 p.m. in room 6, staffing manager at accounting principals. Thank you. And that was our school reports.
Thank you very much, Juliet. We'll now move to agenda item 11, employee organization reports. Does anyone from MEA like to speak?
Good evening. I want to also congratulate our classified staff. They are such big-hearted, caring, qualified support for all of us, and we appreciate everything that they do. We're deep into the Ides of March. It's about this time of the year that teachers realize, oh no, the end is coming, and we're not sure that we have taught everything we need to teach. In fact, we're on an all-out run, trying to get it all in. Historically, it's a very taxing month. I'm not sure every school has a Joanne Buccellato that makes sure that they get lunch at least once a week catered to them. But I will tell you that I think that we should enact that at every site, because at our site, it seems to make things a lot more palatable. I just want to highlight that about this time of the year, there's usually a little bit of a letdown, but in terms of just that overall push. But this year we continue to really burn the midnight oil. Our new adoptions and everything that we are handling right now take a lot of work. Personally, I get to school between 6:30 and 7. I often spend an hour or two just organizing for the reading program. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that it's a lot of work, and it needs to be recognized that our elementary folks are really pushing it. But I don't want to stop there, because I have a sophomore at Alhambra, and I see how hard they are working as well, and I'm sure the junior high is. I'd like to say that I went to the parent night put on by the counselors for my sophomore last month, and it was very informative, and I was really impressed. I was kind of shocked to see it when it came out, and I was like, oh, great. I'm going to go find out about college and how to get her into college and all of that. Also very impressed that those same counselors are meeting with each and every family. I got a notice in the mail that I have a private meeting with the counselor and my daughter to talk about where she's going. And I think that that's very impressive that we do that for all of our kids. And one last shout out to Miss Harris at Alhambra, who, behind everybody's back, tutors our kids so they'll pass the AP exam. And she's not being paid for it or anything. She just does it, I believe, out of the kindness of her heart. I'm not sure how I'm going to reward her, but she is an incredible individual, as there are many, many incredible individuals out there still working hard. So congratulations to our members who continue to support the district and our students in their learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Do we have a comment from CSEA? Kevin.
Good evening again. Things in CSEA land are doing well, except for their president, who had E. coli poisoning last week and spent 2 days in the ER. Everything's going well, and as I said, in CSEA land, we have a great relationship with the district, and we submitted our name this year for the ACE program, which is a program put on by CSEA State. It's called Appreciating Classified Employees. It's only available to districts and chapters where there's a good working relationship between CSEA and administration, which we do have here. And what it allows us to do is if we get selected, we should know by April if we got selected. If we do get selected, during Classified School Employee Week, CSEA State will come out with a full court press thing, and we will have some of our administrators go out into the field and do classified jobs for the day. And we will have photographers follow them around and have them do the job for the day, and then there'll be interviews about how they felt and all that stuff. It's also available to the board. If the board wants to come and do a classified job for the day, you're more than welcome. If we do get picked, you're more than welcome to do that also. So anything from, I know that CJ wants to ride a mower. I don't know if we're going to let him do that, but he does want to do something like that. But yeah, so it would be, we'd pick certain administrators and they'll follow a bunch of our members, and we, basically running around like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to keep up with everybody. And it's a media press event. So we have been entered for it, but we won't know if we've been selected until April. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. I hope you'd be okay with those of us up here doing bargaining and at work. Okay, very good. Thank you. On to comments from PTA. Do we have any comments from the PTA this evening? Seeing none. On to staff board comments reports. CJ?
No staff or board comments?
Okay. On to item 14, public comments under Government Code 54954.3. Members of the public have the right to address the board on any matter within the board's jurisdiction. However, the board may not take action on any non-agenda item. Individual speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to address the board. 20 minutes have been allocated for this portion of the agenda, and additional time is allowed at the end of the meeting if there was not enough time to speak during public comments. Do we have any comments from the public? Seeing none. Oh, please approach. Don't be shy. No need to raise your hand.
Hi, my name is Jeff Stiles. I actually approached the city council last week. I'd like to actually pass around a transcript that I picked up from Alhambra High School of my participating there and actually getting my certification of completion. The transcript that I got was unlegible, and it has put a huge damper on the rest of my further agenda of education. I have gone to DVC and graduated and had an associate's degree in physical education, advanced weight training. I went to a trade school and got my massage certificate, as certified through the state on a post-secondary certification. Now, I've talked to CJ a couple of times in the last, it's been about 2 years, I think. And I'm trying to get my paper diploma. There was an incident that happened January 1989 when the state required all the districts in the whole state to no longer allow excusable absences. They were all unexcusable, even a death in the family. And I lost my mother in 1989 when I graduated to cancer. She passed away in my arms. And I missed about 68 days in 1 year. So I talked to a counselor. I had 7 courses my senior year. And the counselor said you only needed to take 3 to graduate, and you'd have 1 more credit than was necessary to graduate. The district contacted Pat Gemma at the time, that was the principal at the school, and I got a letter from the district saying that I would not graduate with my class. I would not walk with my class. I would not get my paper diploma. I would not go to any senior functions. We responded and co-responded back and forth, and then they said that I would be only a graduate through my transcripts, and it would have a special seal on it from the district saying I'm a graduate. So I attended DVC that next year with that. Now, unfortunately, DVC does not have a record because I'm 48 this year. So it's been some time past. And in fact, I'm actually going through some issues with DVC. I'd like to pass this around for you guys to take a quick look at it, and I'll comment maybe afterwards. But I'm seeking your guys' help. CJ has informed me that there's not much more he can do because he can't show enough that says I did or I didn't graduate. But I decided, okay, I'm going to go one step further. I went to the adult education, tried to dust off some of these shelves that I had, and I went and took a high set and passed with an 83%, 25 plus years later, saying that I have a high school equivalency. So all I'm asking is, and it's just for me, it's not anymore for a function for my living, but it's for me and my kids, to say I graduated from Alhambra High School, which I think was one of the best high schools when I graduated. We dominated football. We, were the dominating factor of, I think we were at that time the only year that beat De La Salle. and an Oakland game. I'd like to pass that around if that's possible for you guys to take a look at the transcript and then see if there's something you guys can do to help me just get my Alhambra High School SANE diploma. And like I said, it's something that I feel that I need to do to finish up some, part of my life to make things right that were wrong.
Understood. If you have anything you'd like to share, please bring it up. We can't take any action tonight for the Brown Act, but we'll be happy to take a look at it. Any further comment from the public? Marilyn? Oh, you do just fine.
But I
with
just
that.
wanted to say that was so inspirational that it's almost put me in tears that someone would come forth and be so dogged about wanting their Alhambra diploma that I hope you give this serious consideration. And I was at that De La Salle Alhambra football game with the Alhambra band student teaching. So I remember that. But I just think that is the most wonderful thing to cherish the high school education experience and want so much to have that for himself and his children. And I really do hope you do what you can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment from the public? Always welcome. Seeing none, we'll advance to agenda item 15, the consent calendar. Approval of the consent calendar means that all items listed here under are adopted by a single motion unless a member of the board or the superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent calendar and voted upon separately. CJ, are there any changes or additions to the calendar tonight? Helen?
Yes, there's one addition. I'm adding another ratification of contract for the Trebon Company for our Lightspeed renewal. That's our web filtering renewal.
And that's for a 3-year contract?
That's a 3-year.
Thank you. Any further changes to the consent calendar?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Very good. Bring it to the board for discussion. A student representative. Oh, well, we're not there yet. No, I'm asking if there's any comment from the board. Seeing none. Any public comment? Seeing none. Back to the board and the student representative.
Aye.
Well, no, we haven't
Yeah,
made a
we need
motion.
a
I
motion
I thought I saw the corner of
Oh.
my eye. You wanted to say something.
No.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. I'll move to adopt the consent calendar as amended.
Very good. Great. We have a motion on the table. Those in favor? Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Well, right. Student representative, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you very much. On to agenda item 16. These are items for board consideration or action. Up first, we have 16.1. Review and approval of new job description, Director Educational Services. This is for information and possible action. CJ?
Thank you. Yes, this is for information, possible action. This is tied to agenda item 16.2. This is a new and updated job description for the Director of Educational Services. And this job description is reflective of a realignment of some responsibilities at the district level, which is intended to create a more purpose-driven focus across some areas, which include curriculum instruction, the professional development aspect of what we do for our educators on a regular basis, and how that is connected to the role of human resources and the development of our site administrators as well. And this job description is reflective of those adjustments, and it is here for your information and possible action tonight. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, CJ. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Student representative, any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll open it up for public comment. That's right, we have Kevin Stein. Please come forward.
Hello again. So I just have a comment. It seems like we change district leadership at the district level a lot. It is concerning to me and my members how often we have to make changes. Um, it it gives the feeling from the membership that there's not stability, and my members are always fearful when there's not stability in the district because in past years when there's not been stability, it usually is preceded by layoffs of my unit members. And so my members have concerns about changes. Anytime there's, this many changes, it seems like every year we have changes at the district level. And so I just want the board to hear that and be cognizant of when we're making changes, that every change we make, especially at the cabinet level, it does send ripples throughout the district. And we just wanted to, as CSE, we wanted to let you guys know that we're always a little bit cautious and my members are a little bit fearful when it comes to changes at the district level. That being said, I had questions for CJ earlier today about this position. He answered all of my questions, and I'm fine with the position. It's just this, I wanted to bring this to the board's attention as how my members feel when there's a lot of changes at the cabinet level. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Are there any further comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. This is for possible action item. Do I have shakes of the head? Very good. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move that we accept the new position description for Director of Educational Services.
We have a motion and excuse me, we have a motion and a second. We'll bring it back to the full board for a vote. A student representative. She can as personnel. Yeah, she can. Job descriptions, yeah.
I'll vote aye.
Full board. Those opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. On to 16.2, appointment of Director, Educational Services. This is an action item. CJ.
Thank you. I am very pleased to be recommending to the Board of Education that Tom Doppy, the current principal of Alhambra High School, be appointed to the position of Director of Educational Services. During Tom's years as principal at Alhambra High School, he developed a proven track record of successful leadership around curriculum and instruction. In addition, Mr. Doppy's experience as a site principal, he has served on both the classified and certificated bargaining teams for the past 6 years. He's been an invaluable member of both teams. Mr. Doppy has a great balance of instructional leadership and human resources experiences. These experiences, combined with his firsthand classroom teaching experience and a master's degree in teacher leadership, make Mr. Doppy an ideal candidate for the Director of Educational Services, and it's my pleasure to recommend him for this position tonight.
Thank you, CJ. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, we'll open this up for public comment. We do have a card from Brenda.
So Tom reached out to me today. Congratulations, by the way. And I believe that there will be collaboration. There is some worry, of course. Some of us at the elementary level have been spoiled, but I think our secondary people will be happy to have someone that really knows what their challenges are. We look forward to collaborating and to having educator input into what goes on in curriculum and development. There's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done, and we look forward to working with you, Mr. Doppy. So thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Are there any further comments from the public? Seeing none, I'd like to bring it back to the full board, but I would like to ask the board's indulgence that if we're to move forward, and I would like to suggest that we do that, I would like to make a motion to appoint Tom Doppy Director of Educational Services. I've just made the motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Student representative. Oh, that's right. See, I had it
That
all
one
in
you
my
can't
notes.
vote on.
Kathy got me mixed up. I had it all in my notes. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Seeing none. Any abstentions? Seeing none. Congratulations, Mr. Doppy. Would you like to say a few words?
Of course, I just want to express my appreciation to everybody in the room, the board, who we've had, in most cases, a pleasure of working with for 7 years, longer than that, or less time than that with some, but we've obviously known each other for some time. It makes it extra special, Jonathan. Thank you. Obviously, CJ and Helen and Janelle and Max, everybody so instrumental in my career. So much gratitude for you, and really the trust that you showed 5 years ago when with relatively very little experience to become principal. I will not forget that or ever take that for granted. It's a big trust, obviously, to have the responsibility of principal of the high school in this community, in this district. Always took that seriously and did my best, which I assume and can tell you appreciated. Likewise, I look forward to serving in this role and sharing not just, or continuing to work not just with Alhambra, but sharing with the other sites the work that we can do together. So thank you for this opportunity. It's very appreciated.
And you get to join us every 2 weeks.
I know. I was scoping it out, you know. There you go. It's cold underneath that vent. I don't
It
know if
is.
there's vents on that side the same. So
You know, Tom, it only took you 20 years to finally get out of high school, but
yes,
Yeah.
yes, I know. It's been there a long time. So yeah. Well, thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you. We'll now move to our next agenda item. It's 16.3, Project Labor Agreement Update. This is an information item. CJ?
Thank you. Max, if you can pull up the presentation, do you have the slide advancer over there? Thank you. This is, as the agenda item describes, a status update for our Board of Education. I think it's worth noting as we start that the requirements under the Brown Act provide that, different than our labor negotiations with our represented and unrepresented groups within Martinez Unified, this is the only platform in which the entire Board of Education can engage in a discussion amongst themselves regarding the status of the project labor agreement, thus the agenda item tonight for the status update. As you can tell from the slides, I am still working for Martinez Unified and not Dennis Walliver Kelly, but our legal counsel supporting us in this matter is from Dennis Walliver and Kelly. And our intention here is to provide an update on some key areas and a timeline. We did receive direction from the board to engage in negotiations for a project labor agreement. You can see on the screen the dates in which we have met with the Contra Costa County Building and Trades Council. The key areas that we're going to be updating tonight are the scope of the PLA, the threshold or carve out, the local hire and apprenticeship provisions, prefabricated materials provisions, and CTE, career technical education support. As it relates to the scope of the PLA, the district had identified that it was for Measure Our Projects. The Building and Trades Council, Measure Our Projects was the scope, but that was contingent upon a $1 million threshold with no carve out. And the carve out was the district discretion to exclude up to 5% of Measure Our proceeds. And without those, the scope reverted to or all future district projects without an end date. So that is to describe where we are in terms of our discussions related to the scope of the project labor agreement. As we move to discuss the threshold of the projects, the district has identified $2 million as a threshold with or without a carve out. And the building and trades, as was reflected on the previous slide, a $1 million threshold maximum without a carve out. Again, just as a review, the carve out being a percentage of the total bond, which would not be subject to the project labor agreement. On the local hire and apprenticeship provisions, in principle, the district and the Trades Council have agreed to the following definition of local area: priority for district graduates and Martinez residents first. Then, if insufficient numbers to meet goals, then contra costa residents. A goal of district graduates and Martinez residents entering apprenticeship training programs. It is noted the goal for local hire and apprenticeships are still under discussion. Additionally, for local hire and apprenticeship provisions, the district was looking at 50% of the hours worked on projects performed by residents of the local area, and a priority for district graduates and Martinez residents who meeting apprentice training requirements to have priority. The Building and Trades Council, 30% of the hours worked on projects performed by residents of local area. No priority for district graduates or Martinez residents. So that is to address where the parties are representative of local hire and apprenticeship provisions. The next area is the prefabricated materials provision. And under the prefabricated materials provision, the district must be able to purchase material and equipment from any source, including prefabricated material, minus inclusion of core employees referral provision. Core employees referral provision allows contractors to use a limited number longstanding employees in addition to hiring from the union hall. The Building Trades Council has not proposed alternative language, but has not accepted the provision as drafted by the district. So this is reviewing where we are related to prefabricated materials provision, which as we have kind of discussed is about prefabricated construction, modular construction, as we've discussed that reflective of construction projects that might closely represent Vicente Brioni School and Building K at Alhambra High School. And for career technical education support, the district requested the following specific commitments from the Building Trades Council: to provide speakers 3 times, host student field trips 3 times, mentor students 5 occasions, assist in identifying contractors willing to hire student interns, participating in career fairs at least twice, and establishing a CTE support fund. And for the Building and Trades Council, upon reasonable request of the district, the Building Trades Council agrees to provide speakers, host student field trips, mentor students, assist identifying contractors willing to hire student interns, and career fair participation. Not a monetary contribution to support CTE, however, and without a specified number related to the activities. And in providing this brief update for the board, I recognize that I represent the district in this matter, and I'm not necessarily speaking for or as a representative of the Building Trades Council, and I'm sure they would agree with that, but I am here trying to represent an objective perspective of where we are related to these key areas that the board has identified as areas of interest related to the PLA. And that's not to say that other areas aren't of interest, but these are some of the main key areas of focus that have been discussed thus far. And I'm happy to answer questions. Deidre Sakai from Dennis Walliver Kelly is also here with us tonight to answer questions as needed as well.
Deidre, do you want to come and oh, okay. I just saw you standing up. I didn't see you back there. Sorry. I definitely have some thoughts and questions, but I'd like to bring it to the full board. If anyone would like to get started with some thoughts or questions or concerns. Otherwise, I'll just break the ice.
How do you want us to do this? Do you have some direct,
I think it would be great if we could have some discussion or direct questions to CJ based on his report. I know we have some public comment. We have at least one card. I'm sure there will be more people who want to speak. But I think that we ought to have an in-depth discussion both about the status as they currently are and then try and come up with some further direction for CJ. You know, we don't have the benefit of being able to discuss these negotiations in closed session per the Brown Act. So we need to be able to give our chief negotiators some instruction at this point.
Are we going to have public comment before we do discussion?
We could have public comment right now. If
I'd like to ask questions now, that I think that way it would give public, anybody from the public an opportunity to respond
Sure.
to whatever we were asking. So I did have a question on whatever the page is with the prefab material provision, where it says use a limited number of longstanding employees. What does limited mean, and how limited would that be? Or is it on a case-by-case basis?
That's a great question. I think Deidre can come up and give us a bit more context related to what it means related to the prefabricated materials, and as it says, minus the inclusion of core employees and what that means.
So, excuse me, in order to do this, we wanted to make sure you had a definition of what we were talking about. So one of the things that was on the table right now, and I think where we left it at, was that the district would have the flexibility to use prefabricated materials, but that there would be no core employee provision. So in other, sometimes in other agreements, there'll be a core employee provision where it's sort of like you kind of trade off on how somebody was a long-standing employment with the contractor who wins the award of the contract, and then someone from the hall. And then it kind of would go back and forth where you get one person who's an employee, a core employee, and they have to fit a certain definition, like they've been working with the contractor for a certain amount of time and doing a certain amount of hours. And then somebody from the hall. So it's just, that was one of the things we just wanted to make it clear that part of the things that we had discussed or conceded on, that it would be that if we have prefabricated materials, there would be no provision for core employees in the PLA. Did that, I mean,
No, that actually didn't answer my question.
there is no provision for a limited number of core employees as we've discussed at this point.
So what Martinez is saying, according to this, it says core employees referral provision allows contractors to use a limited number of longstanding employees in addition to hiring from the union.
It actually says minus inclusion of a core employees referral provision. So we're saying that there is no core employee referrals provision.
I'm a little confused. It sounds like it's saying one thing in the first paragraph and something different in
The
indented
second
one.
paragraph is intended to just clarify what the core employee provision is. So what Deidre is saying is that where the district stance on this is that it would include prefabricated materials, but it is without the inclusion of a core employee referral. So the second paragraph is only identifying what it would mean to have core employees.
It should say core employees referral provision is defined as.
Something like that, because it actually makes it look like it's saying two different things there. I find it.
I'm
really
sorry, I
confusing.
wasn't intending to do that. It was just,
But my concern on this, at any rate, is that we are talking about potentially doing modular construction for at least one site. And my understanding, again, is that many of those folks, that they have their own employees who put together the modular pieces. Does that mean that they can't use their employees to put together the modular pieces? Because I'm not talking about the on-site piece. I'm talking about the piece where they're manufacturing them.
it would depend on who won the award of the contract. If the person who won the award of the contract already uses union hall employees already, then it wouldn't have as much effect as if they didn't. Their employees would come from the hall.
Okay, but I'm not so sure that our current, the folks that we use, say for Vicente or for the building K, did they use union folks in their prefabrication process?
Well, not in the prefabrication process, because prefabrication process is offsite, but in the
That's my
installation,
question.
yeah.
So what my question was is, does this apply to only offsite, or is it apply to both offsite and onsite?
To my recollection, I think the PLA applies to onsite and offsite.
So I'm back to my same question. Could we get an answer to that at some point? For the previous two that we've done, have both of those contractors, have they used union hall folks to do their prefabrication process? or not, because I think that could make a big difference in whether or not what their bid was, in other words, to provide that. And we're already over a huge amount, as we've been talking about John Muir. And I'm really concerned that if we limit and make it so that nobody can bid, we're gonna be even more over.
So what
Okay.
you're looking for us to bring back is the number of Union Hall members that were involved with either the off-site or on-site
I'm more concerned about
construction
the
of,
off-site
okay.
construction, because I can fully support, well, to the extent that I can. I can support the whole idea about on-site. We want to be using our local folks to put these buildings and things up. But off-site, I'm not sure that I know, and because I actually think that when we spoke to at least one of the off-site people, they didn't. But I could be wrong. This is several years ago, so, and that could have changed as well.
Well, and I think just to clarify or continue with the superintendent's question, you're talking about just someone who's going to be doing the prefabrication itself and not other installation, like maybe like
I
the
kinda
other
like
trades.
both, but I'm more concerned about the off-site.
Mhm.
We'll gather both
Thank you.
sets of information for you, and we can bring that back for you.
Do you have any further questions, Kathy?
Just a comment about the no monetary contribution to support CTE. I'm concerned about that. I think that was a big part of our previous discussions, that there would be support for our career technical education. So I am very concerned about that. It feels a little bait and switch.
Very good, thank you. John or Deidre, if you want to go.
Yeah, I had a couple questions on the local hire apprenticeship provisions. And I think were there two sections? Okay, so I'm looking at the second one first, which was talking about the percentage of hours worked on the projects performed by residents of local area. My question was with regard to the lesser amount proposed by building trades versus the position of the district. Was there any rationale given to that? Was it that we couldn't fulfill that type of, the local halls couldn't fulfill that type of need, or, is that information that we have? Because if that's an issue that we're not going to be able to fulfill the type of need, then that's something we'd want to know for flexibility. And then I had some concerns about prioritization of district graduates, and I guess it's the same thing with the Martinez residents. I know that was one of the things that we've talked about pretty extensively, both with the local folks that came in and talked to our meeting, as making sure that as a district we were able to have some sort of priority able for our graduates who are, our taxpayer base is going to be able to benefit from some of that. So I wanted to know, again, kind of tying in, is that something that we may not have, maybe a difficult thing administrative wise that we're in, that building trades is unable to address that?
I think probably the representatives who might comment during public comment from the building trades may address some of that. I do feel comfortable saying that in terms of the percentage of hours worked, there has been a lot of discussion about the availability of labor given the current market and the challenges that anybody might face in the current time in identifying individuals from a certain area given what our current economy and the market looks like.
Can I comment on that as well?
Of course.
But that doesn't change the fact that we could still, part of the whole conversation was about providing priority for Martinez residents. And I'm concerned that that's not putting a number on it. It's just saying priority would be given to Martinez residents as well as our graduates. And I'm very uncomfortable if that's left off. That was a huge amount of the public comment when this was first brought to us.
Bobby?
Yeah, I share some of the concerns expressed. I have a question for CJ, I guess. Uh, in looking at this document, I see that almost without fail, there's a discrepancy between what the district is asking for and what the building trade is asking for. Are we at a standstill? Is there still negotiation and wiggle room occurring in the negotiations?
Great question. We are still negotiating. It's definitely still work in progress. There are some key areas that we have made movement on, as well as the Building and Trades Council. I think that it's a fair assessment as your chief negotiator to say that we have made progress on a number of things. We have reached agreement on a number of things as well, conceptually. I think there are a few key areas of focus where we do remain a little bit far apart, but I would absolutely say that we are still in negotiations. We're not at a standstill. This is just an update for the board in terms of where we are.
John?
I don't have any questions. I'll say my comments after public.
Yep. Same here.
I do have another comment. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And I'm uncomfortable with no end date to any contract. Depends. I don't care what it is. I don't want to put future boards for the next 50 years into no end date, which is what it appears on that first page, second page. That we're confining, the district stance is to confine this to measure our projects. And Building and Trades wants a no end date. I'm very uncomfortable with no end date. I would have a very hard time just feeling like I would be tying the board, a future board's hands.
Mhm. And we did reflect on that slide that there has been movement towards identifying just Measure R, but there are some elements of that which, from the Building and Trades perspective, have some contingencies built into it. But
I think it's time we open it up to public comment. We do have a card in hand for Jolene Kramer, speaking on behalf of the Contra Costa Building and Construction Trade Council. Welcome, Jolene.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. My name is Jolene Kramer. I'm sorry, Mr. President. It used to be Madam President, now it's Mr. President. Okay, I'm sorry about that. My name is Jolene Kramer. I represent the Contra Costa Building and Construction Trades Council. And I just wanted to thank you as a district for undertaking this process. We have had what I would consider to be very amicable negotiations. We've talked through constructively a number of these issues. I think we understand each other. We've met several times, and I think the conversation has been open and forthright about what the priorities are of the district and how we can best achieve them together as a joint partnership between the Building Trades Council and the district. With respect to certain of the issues that CJ raised, I don't necessarily want to get into the particulars of the negotiation because I think, as CJ explained, negotiation is about give and take and understanding where each side's priorities are and what the other side can really do. But I do want to say that that we are hearing the district. We are trying our very best to incorporate what your priorities are. With respect to the CTE in particular, I really don't think that we're very far off. I think it's just, as CJ described, a difference of are they requirements or are they goals? Are they promises that the council will do whatever it's asked, but there's not a specified minimum, little sort of smaller things like that. With respect to the monetary contribution, that's something that if the district feels comfortable, it can put in its specs, and the Building Trades Council is not opposed to that. It just didn't necessarily seem like something that should have been in the project labor agreement. So it's just about talking through those issues. On the local hire, I know I came to these meetings before, and I know that that is a really important priority for the district and for the members of your community. And we do have a priority for district graduates and residents of the city of Martinez. And then second to that would be Contra Costa County residents. And if there's some confusion about whether that would apply to the apprentices as well as to the journeyman, that's something that we can talk through, but the building trades is not opposed to that. So, I think, as I said, all of these things are things that we can work out if we just come back to the table a couple more times. I think we understand one another's position with respect to, the PLA in general. You as a district want this because it's good for your district, for your community, for the construction workers who live here, for raising labor standards. If you take projects away from PLA coverage, you don't get those benefits. So, there's an incentive to the district to actually cover its projects so that you're getting the benefit of the PLA that's applicable to that project. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jolene. Do we have any further comments from the public? Does anyone else wish to approach? Going once, going twice? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Further discussion. So yeah, I'm going to make it clear that I'm always very happy to see my sisters and brothers from the building trades in our meeting room. It's always a pleasure to have you here. And for me, this is an absolute priority. I do want to reach an agreement with you all on this that is mutually beneficial. Some key points for me are that just sort of on the more abstract subject of negotiations, especially contracts with our labor groups, it's been made very clear by arbitrators in interest arbitration over the last few years in the state of California that pattern bargaining is becoming more and more frowned upon. For instance, if we're in negotiations with two of our labor groups, we can't make an agreement with one and then tell the other you have to take the same agreement. That's been made very clear over the last few years, especially if you look at cities that have interest arbitration. Like I said before, we're obligated to treat all of our labor groups as individual entities, to take all of their individual needs into account. And I think that ought to be the approach of any negotiation that covers working men and women. That said, if threshold is an issue, if we look at the project lists, I don't believe that there's anything under Measure R that will cost less than $2 million. So if threshold is a hanging issue, if there's really no difference between $1 and $2 million, and it's something that will get movement on our other key issues, then really what's the difference, right? If we need to go lower, then let's go lower. When it comes to local hire, I too am very excited by the prospect of drafting a project labor agreement, an innovative project labor agreement that would give priority to graduates from Martinez schools, from Alhambra, from the adult school, and from Vicente Briones. I think that absolutely has to be a cornerstone of any project labor agreement. Again, giving preferential hire, whether they be apprentices or journey persons. I want to see Alhambra graduates getting crack at these jobs to build and rebuild our campuses. And then, of course, Martinez residents also need to get preference. That's just the way it's got to be. That's what was discussed ad nauseum here in this room. And then, of course, our trades halls need to be able to fill the rest of the jobs with their members from the surrounding region. CTE, I would ask that we seek creative solutions to this issue. I don't know the specifics of what's been discussed, but I have heard for years that the apprenticeship programs that our wonderful trades unions offer routinely do not get enough qualified applicants. And I want Martinez graduates to be prepared to take an exam to become an apprentice immediately after graduating high school. So I want to do everything in our power, cooperating and collaborating with the Building and Construction Trades Council to make that happen. I would love to see a project labor agreement or some other sort of agreement that codified a system where we are preparing our young men and women to enter the trades immediately upon graduation. And I do want to say that as much as I would personally like a district-wide project labor agreement, I don't think that was actually discussed at this board. I don't think that there's majority support, unfortunately. Maybe there is, I could be wrong. Again, the Brown Act prevents me from discovering that ahead of this meeting. But let's look at Measure R, the potentially decade plus list of projects, $120 million worth, as sort of a dress rehearsal or a trial period. And if everything goes smoothly, as I know that it will under a PLA, a future board will very likely say, hey, let's extend this to the full district indefinitely. Let's make this a dress rehearsal. As far as prefabricated or modular, I'm not sure that we're actually using the correct terminology, but I do know that having been in numerous discussions as part of the John Muir subcommittee, that we're looking at, rebuilding a campus that's in dire need of rebuilding. And I'm using John Muir specifically. It's the first one on our list to address. We've got to have the full flexibility to be able to build the best campus under budget or on budget that meets the needs of our community, our students, our staff. The taxpayers voted to approve Measure R under the impression that it would address a number of campuses. John Muir, of course, being the most in need at the moment. If we burn through our budget by using stick-built, even if if for whatever reason the board decides that stick-built is the best option based on the criteria that we've set for this project, we need the flexibility to be able to do that. But I would also like to be able to find a way to make sure that having a PLA in place, that all of the work performed be done out of our trades halls. So those are my priorities. I know that we can meet these, and I would ask that we just continue to be creative and diligent and forthright, as I know our staff and the representatives of the trades will continue to be. So thank you. John?
So it'll be the yang to your yang. This is what it comes down to. It's $80 million. You take 120, we have $80 million. And we want to give it away, or not give it away. We want to make pretty much an exclusive agreement with the labor unions. And I've never seen a person with $80 million with the checkbook have to negotiate themselves down. Unions haven't come close to meeting any of our needs. We've had 5 meetings. I don't even want to know what the legal bills are, but I bet we're probably between district staff, lawyers, time spent on this, 30, 40,000 into negotiations. That's one classroom, probably 2 classrooms with furniture. So we're going to build the dang buildings. We're going to use this PLA, and we can't buy furniture because we spent it all on negotiating, trying to give $80 million to a PLA. It's, and we just go through here. Scope of PLA. The union came in and said it was for the whole district, everything, including Measure K. That's just greed. It was very simple. Say it here, Measure R, period. They don't let, we were like, we came from $10 million to $5 million threshold, and we get this, well, if we put that in our contract, then it might affect their other contract negotiations with other school districts. I don't care. I only care about Martinez Unified School District. And to be honest, I thought we had agreed upon $2 million with a 5% carve out. So we even lowered ourselves down with, and yet, it's not enough. We want everything. That's just one word, greed. It has nothing to do about doing something good for Martinez Unified. It has nothing to do with doing what's right with our students, doing what's right for our population, 94553. It's just greed. If I had somebody come to me and say, I have $80 million and I want a $5 million threshold, that'd be no problem, especially when 90% of the projects are $5 million or over. So we're arguing about 10%, $8 million. That still gives $72 million. And oh, by the way, 85% of our projects go to unions. So you take that $8 million, you're still getting 6. And no, that's not enough. We need to get the $1 million threshold with no carve outs. We want to extend this for the life of the district. That's not a partnership. That's straight out theft. We get to local hires. CJ, local hires, I think, isn't defined as 94553, is it?
I think we have defined it in the PLA thus far as Martinez and then Contra Costa
And-
County.
And so we're not even, so we could have a whole project, and this is my favorite. It was about putting food on the tables of our students, except they can't even commit to X% higher from 94553. You can, under this definition in the contract, you could have local hires, and they all could be Brentwood, and would not put a single piece of bread on their dinner table of our students, which is what I heard at nauseum. This was about protecting 94553 and getting our money to the people who work here, and yet we don't want it. Well, we don't want to make sure it's like 20% definition. We don't want to lock ourselves in. Well, is it about 94553, or is it about just trying to give a lot of money to a PLA? I heard that this was about putting food on the dinner table of our students and their parents. We can't even agree to do that. Yeah, no priority for district graduates or Martinez residents. We'll shoot for 30% hours performed by residents of the local area, which is defined anywhere in Contra Costa County, really. So can't get behind that one. Prefabricated. They don't even give us an alternative language. We need to have this wiggle room, and they can't even say, here's our language. And this is supposed to be a partnership. This isn't negotiation. This is very simple. You have 80 million, and we want all 80 million. And then we get to the career tech. Now, this isn't going in our specs. The union halls for the last 12 years I've been here said they're pro Alhambra. They're pro getting our students in apprenticeships and making a labor force out of our students. And you know what? Our students are probably really ready to be union members. And we got some really great, creative, hardworking, constructive kids. And yet, oh, you can add it to your specs on a project. And I always let, well, we really support Alhambra. They don't support us. There's no money. Our kids need math skills. They need reading skills. It's hard to get into apprentice programs. I recognize it. Not anybody can go into apprentice program, but they need to read, write, and be able to process in thoughts. And the unions don't want to add it to a spec. They can't say as part of our PLA to show how much we're committed to the students of Martinez Unified School District. Is it asking a lot? Yeah, but here's the thing. I don't represent Oakland. I don't represent West County. I don't represent any other place in Contra Costa except for Martinez. So if this is truly about doing what's right for our students and our families, this should be done within five meetings. How many more furniture classrooms do we not fulfill? This was a 3-2 vote, but I mean, let's just end it. Let's call it. They still get 85% of the work. We're arguing over $8 million additional dollars. Actually, not even that, because $8 million, they get 80% of that. So we're talking about a couple $1 million. And the only reason they're afraid to do this is because it's going to affect their business. It could affect their contracts in other districts. Well, guess what? I don't care. We spent way too much money, way too much time to give $8 million additionally in a PLA. So my recommendation is we've gone as far as we can. CJ Helen, I don't think you should have to make another phone call. If they want to call us and say, you know what, we can come to the table and get this done in one meeting, I'm fine with that. But let's end this charade. Because this has nothing to do about Martinez and his students. This has to do about making sure we direct 80 million to a PLA. And I work in finance, and I haven't seen this much greed in a long time. My industry's built on greed. So I'm off my soapbox.
Thanks, John. Deidre?
Well, I don't want to be the total, I don't want to go yin yang, but I will say one of the reasons why I supported the project labor agreement is not just it's good for the community, it's also as trustees, we're guaranteeing skilled labor, and a skilled labor force is important to me. So I'd like to continue discussions. So I'll start with that. I'll just go through what we have in front of us and give feedback to our committee. And I do want to thank both John and Jonathan for being part of the subcommittee. I know it's difficult when we have a split vote to try and work on coming to a consensus, and you can't do it without coming here. So I get that. So I think that that's a fair representation of our board support for the Measure R. Measure R projects, that certainly does have a end date. I think that addresses what you're talking about, Kathy. I've also been supportive of a more broad one, but I understand that, you know, we've talked about building a relationship, so we have an opportunity to build it, and we've got a lot of opportunities, a lot of projects. I'd like to see if we can work out some of the issues to get us there. I think we've looked at our project list, and all I keep hearing is that costs keep going up. So we know that I think $3 million is probably our smallest project on the list. I don't see either of these threshold issues being something that should stop us from going forward. Which is why I don't really see a reason for a carve out. That just, to me, in my mind, makes me think that how do you carve it up? It's a whole lot more time and effort and trying to decide why we shouldn't include it to get the best skilled workers there and to already further the relationship. So in my mind, I wouldn't spend too much on dealing with the carve out. I think I already talked about my concerns with the local hire. I'd like to see the tightest definition of local, being Martinez Unified School District boundaries. And I assume that there's going to be some administrative difficulty, but I mean, these are district projects. I think we should be able to get a skilled workforce that should, value their diploma from one of our schools, whether it's Vincente Briones or Alhambra. We know we have a lot of residents, so I guess if there are certain specialized areas, we need to figure out what those thresholds would have to be. So if that's the issue, we'll leave it to the professionals to figure out, how we get to a percentage of the hours worked that makes sense for the labor force. If Contra Costa is considered our labor force, I don't love that people would be coming from West County or East County. I'd prefer them to be in Martinez, but if we've exhausted that, I would much rather have people in Contra Costa County than people from Southern California or other places in the state or even out of the state coming and taking our jobs. So let's see. Prefabricated. Jonathan, you talked about stick built, and I think you were meaning modular when you were talking about.
Well, I was saying we needed the flexibility. If we enter into a PLA that mandates stick built only, then we're not necessarily meeting our fiduciary responsibility.
Exactly. And I just wanted to dovetail on that because you and I share that subcommittee. And when we have this really great idea of getting the best campus that will last us another 50, 70 years, and we need to get the best building built by the best workers, but it may have to be some pick and choose about the prefabricated buildings. And we want, that's the best for the district. It's the best for our kids who are going to be sitting in those schools. So what I think we need to work together to make sure that we've got a labor force that's going to help us with our bottom line there. And it may not be perfect, but it's going to be something that's going to make or break our project list. And we've already identified that through our master plan. And then anything we can do to partner on the career technical education support. You know, I don't need to echo what we've all sat here and we've heard members of the public offer their individual resources to come and help our students. So let's just see what we can do if we can get creative. You know, but we need to have some type of a commitment to participate in our programs, or at least continue to make resources available to us potentially on a priority, especially with you know, we've got several local halls that have training centers or however that looks. So that's my input.
Thank you. Definitely hearing some common refrains. Bobby, do you have any thoughts? No? Kathy?
Yes, I do. I'd like to do what you did, Tudor, and go through this. In terms of the scope of the PLA, yes, I think it should be limited only to Measure R. And frankly, if I had my way, I'd limit it in number of years as well. Not to like 5 or 10, but maybe something like 20, because I don't know how long it's going to take us to actually finish building the schools under Measure R. And I want to have a way, want to have an end in sight if necessary. So then if we go over to the threshold, I don't ever remember talking about anything as low as 2 million or 1 million. Like John said, we were originally talking about 5 or 10 million, and I'm much more comfortable with the 5 million plus a carve out. I could have a really hard time voting for anything less. I really have concerns. I get the local hire versus Martinez versus Contra Costa County. I agree. If we look back at the folks that we've contracted with in the past, we've done our best to do Martinez, but sometimes that's not possible. And I'd rather keep it to Contra Costa County. But the fact that the Building and Trades has no priority for district graduates or Martinez let me try that again. No priority for district graduates or Martinez residents. I can't support that either. That was a big piece of what was discussed at all of these meetings. And I think the yes votes on this board were swayed by that. And in terms of, I really am concerned about our prefab and modular buildings. And I do need to see the numbers before I can have a good sense of what this would look like. I want to be sure we have the opportunity to do modular buildings for any projects that we need it done for. And I know from talking, as I said before, I know I spoke with several of the folks that we went out to look at the various sites where they had put up modular buildings. I went on a couple of those. And they didn't all use union folks. They used people who've been working for them for 30 years. I think they probably know best how to do their modular buildings, and we're happy with what we have as far as I know. So I want to see that information. And then let's see. I definitely want to be sure that there is a monetary contribution to CTE. We're struggling in our district. We're talking about making cuts. Support for our career technical education programs would go a long way. It feels, looking at this, honestly, it feels like we're not much further than we were when we first talked about this. It feels as though, and I heard what you said about how it's a partnership and we're working together, but I'm not seeing a lot of that in this particular piece. So maybe I'm just not, because I haven't sat on the committee, so I don't know, but I do have to say, I am not seeing some of the really key provisions that we discussed and that were presented by speakers to us. So, I'm having a hard time. We had a number of speakers who said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I still have that feeling. I'm feeling a little more backed into a corner here. it feels as though we've done a fair amount of giving on things that I don't think we should be giving on. And I could not support, if it came back in this form, I could not support it. And I would certainly hope that my fellow and sister board members would think about whether or not they were willing to make that kind of compromise. Because I agree with John. It takes money out of our classrooms, the classrooms we're building for our students. So if we don't actually do this in a way that actually makes it better for our students, then I don't know why we're doing it. So that's my thought, or those are my thoughts.
Thank you very much. Bobby, do you have any thoughts now? None? Okay. Well, I think we have definitely heard some commonalities in the discussion amongst us. We obviously have some differences, and that's completely okay. But you know, I do want to make it clear that we absolutely have key priorities. Key priorities. We are Martinez Unified School District. We are no other school district. We are new to this process. This process was entered into by a split vote, but still in good faith to do what's best by our district, our students, and our taxpayers. And I am confident that we can reach an agreement. So I hope we've given you some clear direction, CJ.
Yes,
Direction of the board.
I think it's been clearly reinforcing that we need
I've only heard two
contribution to
saying
CTE.
going. I haven't heard. I mean, Bobby, you're gonna have to say, do you want us to continue to negotiate or not? Did you want us to?
I'm saying what I needed to see if we were going to vote for something. Honestly, I'd be happy if we said no at this point. I don't feel as though we have been negotiating in good faith, at least that we've been negotiating with in good faith. I mean, after lengthy meetings with many, many people getting up and making some very strong impassioned points about our students, our families, and to have them not be included after 5 meetings, that's ridiculous. If we were going to vote on it now, I would certainly vote no.
I mean, I'll follow wherever the direction of the board is, but this is the first time I've ever negotiated myself down with no counteroffer. We literally have negotiated everything down, and not one provision has been given to us. So I'm at the will of the board. I'm not trying to end this. I'm not trying to sabotage this. I would like to end this, but if the board still wants to go forward, I think we need directions on carve-outs. I think we're all pretty much in line as Major R. I feel like I know where local hire is. We should have some definite, but we need to be somewhat flexible. Prefab, I think the board wants full flexibility. But, we need some kind of guidance, or I feel I need some kind of guidance, what the board wants us to do with CTE and carve-outs. And if you guys want us to negotiate and we figure out what the best it is, that's fine. But, I mean, what is it we want to do going forward? And if it's continued negotiations, I have no problem. How long do we carry the negotiations out? Another 5-6 months?
I would like this to be resolved as quickly as possible. Having never done this before, I'm not clear how long it usually takes to negotiate a project labor agreement from scratch, where one hasn't existed previously. For me, I mean, I don't know how explicit we can actually be, given that we are in negotiations, and I certainly don't want to be using this update on the status of negotiations to be negotiating at the table. This isn't what I believe we're doing here. We're not negotiating with anybody here. We're having an update amongst ourselves. I'm hearing commonality, which is that we all believe that getting a firm commitment to contribute to CTE is an absolute must. Local hire, an absolute definition of local hire. I mean, was definitely moved, Deidre, by what you said about within the boundaries of MUSD. Why not? And if that can't be done, then I do think in concentric circles, and I understand there's a labor shortage. I understand there's a ton of work going on right now, all throughout the Bay Area, but we definitely did hear from numerous public speakers that this work could very well be performed by Martinez residents of our school district. Let's make that happen. I don't know.
I would hate to see us negotiate ad nauseum, because that also will hang up several other things that we've got in the works. I do agree that participation in our CTE program is critical, absolutely critical. Local hire, absolutely, to the greatest extent that we can get. I think we need to address the modular issue, because I think we're all feeling a little conflicted with some of the budgets for construction that we're seeing. And we know, because of past experience, that sometimes modular is a good solution to some of that conflict. I don't think we can end this based on an update. Okay, but I don't want these negotiations to go on forever. I think that we've given CJ some direction, some feel for what's important to all of us, some commonality, as Jonathan said. And I would like an update after the next negotiation to see if there's been any movement in the direction that we want to go.
That's fine. Thank you.
And I'd also like to make sure we have the answer to my questions about modular and the folks that we've used or the folks that are out there.
Can you-
Because the last thing I want to do is end up having to negotiate with one
Mhm.
or two modular people because the only ones that can meet the union requirement clear off and wherever they're building their stuff. So I don't want to create that more expense for us based on if it's more expensive. Because again, I think there are some modular companies that have been built by individuals, kind of sounds crazy, from the ground up, so to speak, but where they have used their employees who become pretty expert on whatever it is that they're doing within that. They may or may not be union members. And I don't think that should matter.
That's part of the core employee provision, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, but I wasn't real clear on what that meant, like I said. So I'd really like to know whether or not any of the modular companies, what percentage of modular companies actually are using 100% union labor.
So I appreciate all the comments. I feel like Jonathan and I can go forward. So I appreciate everybody's input. Hopefully we can create a partnership that will benefit Martinez Unified and its families. So I might just say thank you.
Yeah, agreed. What do we think about having an update after the next negotiation? Yeah, I'm okay with it too.
I'll make sure we have it ready.
Thank you. Shifting gears, we'll now move to agenda item 16.4, review of revised board policy and administrative regulations 5117. This is an information item. Janelle?
Good evening. This board policy and administrative rules being brought forward with additional revisions, as we believe that we need to make some adjustments to the policy to allow flexibility as our enrollment needs change. And so specific provisions related to interdistrict releases and permits have been revised.
Could you, I'm sorry, I don't have it right in front of me, but
I'll give
Yeah,
her a question.
thank you.
There's some pretty extensive changes that were made to both of the proposed policies. Can you just give us kind of a brief overview on what you did and why that's changed?
So as Janelle is preparing to answer the questions about what some of the technical changes were, as she had mentioned earlier, one of the things we're looking at is we generally in our inter-district attendance agreements, or excuse me, policies, have language that is most specifically addressing how we accept or reject requests to come into the district. And in looking at some comparative districts, we recognize that we did not have adequate language for considering any conditions or circumstance where we may want to deny the release of a student. And historically, we haven't, and there's not necessarily a belief that in the immediate weeks or months that we're going to need to. However, there are some districts locally that are adjusting how they are releasing students out of their district. And as that topic has come up, it brought us to look at our own internal policies. And within that discussion, we recognized that this might be an opportunity for us to put some more comprehensive language in terms of how we consider releasing students from Martinez Unified who might be requesting to attend another district, because we have pretty extensive language for how we consider students who would like to come into Martinez Unified.
And were these proposed amendments based on review of best practice from surrounding districts?
Yes, and as the CASBO updates that we receive, and it has gone through our legal counsel as well for review. We want to make sure that our language doesn't restrict us too much in terms of who we are accepting in on transfers, and also if there were to become a time where we needed to restrict releasing students to other districts due to enrollment changes, that we have that flexibility as well.
Thank you for that. Does anyone else any thoughts or questions? Do I have any public comment? Seeing none. Okay. Thank you very much. We will be reviewing this at the next meeting. Next, we have 16.5, 2017-18 second interim report. This is an action item. Helen?
Okay, as you know, we're required to put together a second interim report by March 15th of each year. And this report basically, what it does is takes a look at the budget, where we are today compared to where we were, well, actually not today. The first interim goes from July 1st to October 31st, and the second interim goes from November 1st to January 31st. So this second interim period, just for those few months, it takes a snapshot of our income and our expenditures and compares them to where we were in the first interim at the start of the year from July to October 31st. So by looking at this, it gives the district the opportunity to make changes before the end of the year, put together multi-year projections, recalculate our third year out, and discuss anything that might have to be changed. Okay. So as you know, I've said this in the first interim, our budget assumptions are based upon the following. They're slightly changed from the governor's budget workshop in January. Our COLA has changed over the 3-year period. Our LCFF funding is going to 100% in 18-19 and 19-20 and further out, which means that we'll be fully funded, and our increases on revenue will be based solely upon the COLA. I outlined our CalSTRS rates and CalPERS rates as in our 3-year projection, as well as our lottery funding, our unduplicated count, step and column increases are included in our multi-year projection. As you know, people move across the column. We average about a 1.5% each year for movement. Health and welfare increases, I just projected out at 5% flat across, although we don't know what it will be next year and the year after. We just leave it at 5% until we know differently. And the one-time discretionary money is built into this budget from 17-18. The one-time money that was in the governor's workshop in January is not built into this budget because, one, we don't have it, and two, we can never be sure if we're going to get it or how much it's going to be. So I leave it out until I get the check in hand, just like we did with the 585, 686. Okay. Then we get the clicker to work. Maybe. I'll shake it a little bit. Oh, there we go. I took a look at the general fund revenues. I compared the adopted budget from June. Last June, we adopted a budget to the first interim and the second interim, and I looked at the variance between the first and second. There's not been much change. The biggest change has been in our other local revenue, which fluctuates throughout the year because that's a donation money that comes in from MEF, goes into that pot, and then as it gets spent, it goes back down. That's basically where your local revenue is from. We don't get local taxes. It's from based on donations. Scholarship money comes in and it goes into the local revenue account. And then when we give out the scholarships in June, it goes back down. So that's where our biggest fluctuation is right here. Our total revenue, projected revenue, we don't have all the money in the bank yet, is about $42,452,906 for this year. Then we take a look at our general fund expenditures, again, using the adopted budget, the first interim, what I reported to you back in December, and then the second interim, and our expenses come out totaling 44,250,000. If you recall the page before, if my clicker will work, I think it's time for a new one. Maybe a new operator. What's it? Over there, not there. Oh, that'll help, huh? Okay, as you can see, our revenues are 42,000,004, and our expenditures, works better, are 44.2 million. So we are spending more than we are bringing in. If you take a look at the variance, how much more we're spending, we're actually spending a little bit more in certificated salaries, projected. Remember, all of this is projected. Nothing is in stone. It's just projected, and it's based upon what we've spent so far. And then they calculate what they think it would. The machine calculates what, if we keep spending like we are, what it will be at the end of the year. So you can see that here. Our general fund expenditures, general fund expenditures. Again, salary and benefits around 82%. It fluctuates between 82 and 84 depending on the year. Benefits is the same from first interim, about 26%. This has not changed much at all. Okay, and the next slide just talks about projections. When you see these numbers as projected numbers, you have to remember projections are not forecasts, they're actual numbers, and they can change anytime something changes. So if the governor comes in the May revise and gives us a little bit more money or gives us a little less money, that will change this entire projection. If something happens like something costly, like when the water main broke at Morello Park was pretty costly, something like that happens, could drive up the projection of the services cost, and we would end up with a higher amount there. So projections are just projections, not forecasts. Anything can happen to change them. Oh, sorry. Okay, so in our multi-year projection, we look 3 years out. We're required to do 3 years out. We take a look at our revenue, we take a look at our expenditures, and as you can see here, we are deficit spending 1.7 projected deficit spending $1.7 million this year, 1.9 next year, and almost 2.5 the third year out. I've listed our beginning fund balance, our ending fund balance, plus our total reserve. You can see that at the end of this year, we will have a reserve of 10.81. By the end of next year, with our projected spending and revenue staying the same without any cuts whatsoever, we will be at 6.19%. And at the third year out, this is on top. So this is actually with the 3% built in, I'm sorry. So this is actually 13.81%, and this is 9.19 because this is the 3% is on top of this number. okay? Which means our third year out, we are going to meet our reserve requirement, which we weren't able to do at the first interim. So we will have a reserve of 3.61. Barely made it, but we did make it. So our our budget will be positive, not qualified, because we did manage to get over the 3% reserve. Take a look at our other funds that the district has. Adult education fund is pretty healthy. Our cafeteria fund has a balance here. Money comes in and out all year long. Our deferred maintenance fund, I wanted to talk about this. Each year we put $70,000 in our deferred maintenance. I think that's what we're putting in there at this point, and that funds a lot of our summer projects and other projects that come up.
Sorry to interrupt, Helen. Is that Fund 14?
I'm talking about Fund 14.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Okay, I just want to pull that page, just so I don't. Yeah, we put, and that's spent on things like striping and parking lots, roofing, redoing the gym floors every year, and the district does donate 70,000. Does donate 70,000. Max, can you put that back for me? Keep going. All the way to the other funds. Sorry about that. There we go. Thank you. If you take a look at Fund 40, you see Fund 40 Special Reserve Fund for a Capital Outlay. That is the fund that we used to put 150,000 in per year for long-term maintenance projects, but in the budget cuts last year, we suspended that for 4 years, beginning in 16, 17. So we will not be adding to Fund 40. It has a balance of $2 million in it right now, and that's not expected to grow at this time. If you take a look at Fund 20, the Special Reserve for Post-Employment Benefits, that started out with a balance of 600, I believe 626,000 that Dan White and Tim Rahill put away to set aside for retiree benefits to help with the cost in the future. Well, we're at the point now that we have to use it. We're using $188,200 for each of the next 3 years, this year and the next 2 years in our multi-use projections, and it leaves us a small balance at the end, but that will be gone the next year out, and we will have to accommodate that cost in our general fund.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again? How much
Okay.
we're spending out of that per year?
Pardon?
You-
$188,200 a year. Why that number? Because it's what we needed to use this year, and I carried it over the next 2 years, and we were able to still maintain a 3.61% third year out balance, okay, reserve. So originally, it was set in the budget to expire in the 3 years, but I was able to pull a little bit out to keep us above the line there. And the last one is the building fund. The building fund, as you know, is the bond fund, nice and healthy, sitting there waiting for us to start John Muir. So, and any other foundation, private trust, that's the 37,900, that's our scholarship fund. That's where people that run scholarships through the district, that money sits in there, okay? Let's see. Challenges for the future. The challenges will be to maintain a balanced budget with our annual expenditure increases. Now that we're fully funded in our LCFF, our future increases in revenue are based totally on the COLA, which is not a high enough percentage to cover the increasing costs across the board. As I've mentioned before, costs for everything are going up, including our regular services such as PG&E and water. They've all gone up, and garbage have gone up anywhere from 5 to 6% this year. Costs go up. Our COLA is not going to be a big enough COLA to hit those costs. So my recommendation to the board is to approve this 17-18 second interim financial report with a positive certification because we were able to meet our third year out. But I'm also making a very strong recommendation that we put together a superintendent's budget advisory committee for the purpose of looking at ways to eliminate deficit spending and ensuring a positive certification for the third year out on our future budgets. in June, when I come back to you with a budget, that first in the multi-year projection, this 17, 18 right here is going to drop off and we're going to hit the 2021. And if we're only at 3.61 here and we continue out the next year with our revenues being less than our expenditures, meeting our third year out is going to be pretty much impossible without anticipated cuts. And so that's why I'm recommending that we take a look at putting together the superintendent's budget advisory committee as we did years ago. So questions?
Well, thank you for that, Helen, greatly. Just to be clear, what happens if we do nothing to change what we're doing now, and in year three we end up with reserves lower than the mandated amount?
Then we will have a negative budget.
And then what happens?
Then we don't have any money and the county comes in and they take care of us.
Is it the county that comes in?
I don't know if the state or the county, I'm not sure.
Once we go from qualified to negative, the
yeah.
county will intervene, and as soon as the county intervenes, the state will be down to intervene in a more stringent and structured manner.
And
I
what
used to tell
does
the-
state intervention look like?
I used to tell the junior high teachers about our API, the men in the long black coats are going to come down and they're going to take over our school and we're not going to be able to make any choices. So I'm assuming it's something along the same lines as that is where they're going to take over.
I'm not asking questions I don't already know the answer
Okay,
to.
well,
I
I'm
just
glad
want to
you
make
do.
sure that this is
I don't want to know
out
these answers. I
there
don't wanna
for
get there.
understanding. State intervention isn't generally considered a good thing, correct, CJ?
The state intervention in terms of budget is not generally a good thing for us locally at all.
Understood. Thank you for that and indulging me. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
I have a question.
Yes.
Helen, referring back at page 9, where it's other funds, it shows that we have $6.2 million in Fund 35.
Yes.
And that's our developer fees, right? And we've already kind of earmarked that money.
We have earmarked that money for, I'm trying to get to that slide, for projects. And one of the things that I'm doing, because projects through Measure K, some of the projects on our last Measure K list had funds coming from Fund 35. So right now, April, my wonderful bond clerk, is putting together a list of projects, their final costs, what's left out of Measure K and Fund 35. And we need to take a look at, as a board, you need to take a look at prioritizing what's left there, because other expenditures have come to light, such as Alhambra swimming pool for $1.6 million and other things like that creeped into creeped into the need list. So that's planned for maybe the end of March, beginning of April with our summer project list.
I heard the principal of Alhambra High School is going to take care of the pool.
Well, I was thinking the same thing. That would be a nice goodbye. So, but that's something that has to be done immediately due to the conditions that are not good in the pool. So,
Thank you. Thanks. I just wanted to make sure that's, and it sounds like you're bringing it back, but
Right.
one of my questions was, how are we developing that piece? Do we have more developer fees that have come in, and how much have we already earmarked?
there will be. There's also in this $6 million fund, right now it's $2.8 million is the money that came back to us through the projects and is earmarked in our Measure R at the top where we've put in our own funds. So that's sitting in there too. So not that whole 6 million is not available for projects. Some of it is already spoken for.
Okay, great. We can bring that back whenever we do.
Yeah, she's working on it really fast.
So at least we got positive. That's the good news. The reserves are just so hard to really get your arms around, and it's like a dam, and we know what the flow is, and every year we're trying to control the flow out, but in hope that we get enough rain to refill the reserves so we can keep the flow of money going for 3 years. Issue is we never know what rain's going to happen every single year. So we don't know what our inflows are into the dam. So the reserves, we look healthy this year. But if you're trying to, supply water to a whole community 3 years out, you got to hope for that Sierra snow to come in, and we have to manage it. And then that budget committee, I strongly support it. If we're going to fill the dam up to keep it going on a continual basis, hard decisions have to be made, and we need to bring the community together. I wish you luck, CJ. But we got to figure out how to get that dam completely filled, the reservoir for the next.
And
No, I used to go to Little Rock Reservoir, a dam, the water behind the dam. Is the dam they actually, no, Hoover Dam. Is it?
I'll get the committee together.
I would like the committee to define that, because I went water skiing in Hoover's Dam, okay?
Well, we're probably not going to refer it.
I want to remind you too, when you take a look at our expenditures and our projections and where we are, this is what's projected for the year. So if something happens and we don't spend this 1.8, I think now we're below 1.8 now, but they're projecting that we're going to be there based upon our expenditures. So that may give us a few, that $100,000 to drop down to the bottom line, which will make, through the 3.61 maybe go to 3.65. So these, if just keep in mind, these are projections, and that's why things look different every time that there's a report, is because the projections are projections. They're not real numbers until you see the unaudited actuals in September, which is after you've built the budget and you've already done a either a qualified or a positive. So it's you just got to remember there's some flexibility here with that money. That's why it never looks the same. So
Further thoughts? Juliet, anything? You've been awfully quiet tonight. Yeah. Is there any public comment? We do have a card from Brenda.
So Helen, you talked a little bit about one of my questions, which was the books and supplies, because currently we've spent $589,362. And I would imagine that most of the money that we spend is early on in the year. Also, last year, it was very strange. When Diane was doing this, there was cafeteria expenses in books and supplies. And I was like confused about that. So I'm confused. So is that pretty much, we've spent most of the money, we're just getting through the end of the year, or do we have any big book purchases or anything that we're expecting to come forward?
before Audrey left, she told me that she had put in an order probably between $30,000 and $50,000 for more reader books for Reader's Workshop from people that didn't get their books or wanted more books. There's also a sex ed or family life curriculum that has to be bought for 5th grade, and that I know of. There's replacement textbooks, but there's also science for the middle school, I believe, has picked something or is adopting something. They're in a pilot. They've been piloting all year. They're on their second curriculum that they're piloting, and so I'm looking. I'm
Would that be
remembering
this year or next
that'll
year?
be out of this year's, I
This year's
think,
budget?
more than likely, in order to get the stuff before the school year starts. But I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that. And I that number you gave, I don't know that rings a bell, but I'm going to look it up right now.
Okay. So that was a question. And the other question was the services and other operating expenditures. We've spent 1.3 million and you're expecting 2.25 million, which is that's like $1 million difference. Do you think that that's going to be actually an accurate projection?
It depends on what happens. A good water main break, or all of those things are in services and contracts. Anything that we have to hire someone to come in and do, HVAC system, sheet metal, Martinez sheet metal, all of that stuff comes under service.
So it may or may
So
not.
it may be maintenance, it may be grounds, it could be, there's such a variety of things that are put under services and operating expenses. It's hard to say.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Well,
Do I want to? No, I don't want to spend
no, I
another
know you
dime.
won't. You're a tightwad. And then, God bless her. Yes. No, seriously, I love Helen. So then the only other couple of comments I want to make is when I look at professional consulting services, it looks like we're budgeting $1 million for that, and we've spent like 400,000. But that just seems like a lot of money for consulting services. And I'm not up there. I'm on the actual copy of the budget that you gave me. It's page 6 at the bottom.
Okay.
Are we expecting those consulting services to spend another 475,000?
Okay, so what you're looking at, Brenda, on page 6 is just the budget on our unrestricted money. It's not unrestricted, so it's just 1/2 of what was spent. This up here projects both the restricted and the unrestricted.
So we're expecting to spend that extra amount.
On which one?
So right at the bottom, 5,800. So we've spent almost 400,000, 398 and some change. And we still have.
It's possible. I'd have to look at what's charged there to be able to tell you, but it's possible. That's just a projection based upon what's spent. I can't say that we're going to spend it. I hope we don't, but it's not there to say, oh my God, we have to spend every dime that's in that bucket. That's what's allocated based. The budget is created based on historical spending. And so historically we put
Well,
a
I know
budget in
we
there.
had, especially at John Muir, we had a lot of things happen that were very, very expensive.
Yeah.
So
So I'm
maybe
not
we're
really
going to get
sure.
lucky with those projections.
Tomorrow I will be going a little bit deeper into each of those with MEA in our budget workshop.
Okay.
So,
Well, maybe
okay.
maybe I'll be allowed to come.
Okay.
And then I can look
And
at
then
that.
I'll keep those questions in mind as I come to that meeting. Okay.
And then the other question I have is the total certificated salaries were down $648,937. So I don't know why that was.
What page?
Same page. Same page. Up at the
Page
top, classified salaries, it's at the very top.
Yeah. When you're looking at unrestricted, one of the things for the change could be that salaries were picked up on the restricted side of the house. More salaries went into, let's say, paid for Title I, which is on the restricted side of the house and out of our grants that we get. So there's different pots of money. The restricted are here and the unrestricted are here.
Yeah, I know about the pots of
Right.
money.
So what we tried to do was to free up more general fund money. A lot of our grant money, like the DGI and the CTIG and all of that, picked up salaries on that. So there probably is an increase
So
on
that
the
was-
restricted side. So
that's
I
the
would look
decline?
at both of those. I would look at both of them.
Okay.
We did have cuts last year. We did cut classified and certificated.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. So you're down, I forget what it was, maybe 4 or
FTEs.
5 FTE, 3 or 4 FTEs. I'll
Mhm.
have to look that up, but it should
Yeah,
be
that wouldn't
less.
account for all of it, but also
And
since
then
it's
you have to
certificated,
remember-
we also cut at the district office. So
Yep,
that's
but do
probably
you
part of it, too.
remember last year we had 31 retirees in the district? So
Mhm.
I took a look at who retired and where they were on the salary schedule. Some of our long-time employees left and were replaced by people that maybe didn't quite make as much on the salary schedule or didn't have the longevity.
Right.
So you might have retired a $90,000.
We hired a bunch of new people.
with
Mhm.
and then replaced them at a 50,000. So that also
So all of
takes
that
into
may
account.
just come together
Right.
to provide us more cush
Right.
as we go forward.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have any further comment from the public? Mr. Stein?
I just have a comment. I'm very excited if the board does actually, we put together the superintendent's budget advisory committee again. I've served on it before. I think the last 2 times we had it. I think that having all of the voices at the table gives a much better view of the services we provide and the money and where it's spent. And some of our frontline troops, our classified members, usually have some wonderfully great ideas about where where they see money and how it's spent, and could possibly give input onto how we can help fix the deficit. So if the board actually decides we want to go forward and we want to have it, CSE would very much like to be a part of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment from the public? No? Okay, seeing none, back to the board.
How often do you expect this committee to be meeting? And does it have a particular length of time and a day of time? And I'm supportive of forming the committee as well.
We've got a number of committees going right now. In terms of how often, I'm guessing once we get started, probably monthly, because usually in those meetings, we'll spend a few educating, getting everybody up to speed, putting some context to the budget and the district operations and the scope of services and programs that are delivered and offered. And then from there, we look at considerations for how reductions in ongoing expenditures can be made. And oftentimes that requires some time in between meetings to go back and gather feedback and number crunch what estimates might be. So I'm thinking initially we might meet 1 or 2 times a little closer than normal. And then probably monthly after that, I would envision that with the support of the board, we'd try and get the first meeting together maybe by the end of the month, and then meet a few more times before the end of the year. School year. And we continue meeting. I don't think we'll be done in that amount of time, but maybe the very end of March. It might be after we get back from break with as quick as things are coming, but sooner the better would be my preference.
John, did you have a? Yeah, it is.
2 weeks, yeah.
If CJ says he can make it happen by the end of the month, he can make it happen by the end of the month.
I said maybe. I put a qualifier in there.
You're on my bad ear.
Kevin, can you and I just meet?
So just to clarify for my own understanding, should the board adopt the 17-18 second interim report, is it contingent on reviving the BAC? Are they 2 separate motions? Correct.
What I would say is that the second interim is what you're taking action on. When we do the reorganization each year, we reestablish the committees. So the membership of the committees in terms of board representatives is set. It's just moving forward with setting up the meeting like we would any other superintendent's committee meeting.
Right.
Did we set member?
No.
I don't think we set members.
We didn't create membership.
Those are board committees and this is the superintendent's committee. And that's the difference. Right, you get to set your committee up.
Right.
It's your committee, not our committee.
Yeah.
Which is why we can do it more quickly.
That was my understanding as well. I just wanted to clarify. We good?
Are we ready?
Yep.
I move we accept the second interim report as presented.
Second.
With congratulations to Helen for getting through that very clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice work, Helen.
We haven't adopted it yet. We have a motion and a second. Student representative?
Aye.
Full board?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Very well done, Helen. Thank you. Greatly appreciated. On to 16.6, tri-party agreement between Martinez Unified School District, the City of Martinez, and Rising Sun Energy Center for the, is that called CES or CYES program? This is an action item. CJ?
Thank you. This was brought before the board during the last regularly scheduled meeting. And as referenced at that time, this is a tri-party agreement with their school district, the City of Martinez, and Rising Sun Energy Center. It is something that focuses on workforce development and has oftentimes benefited members of our community. It's here for your action this evening.
Do you have any comment from the board? I'm sorry? Oh, sure. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, back to the board.
I move that we accept the tri-party agreement between Martinez Unified School District, the City of Martinez, and the Rising Sun Energy Center.
And I will second it. We have a motion and a second. Student representative,
Aye.
full board. Those opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. Yes, motion passes. 16.7, approval of updated noon duty job description. This is an action item. CJ?
Thank you. As referenced in the background of the agenda item, this job description came forward at the last meeting. It is something that has been reviewed with CSEA due to Assembly Bill 670, which amended Education Code 45103. And as such, our noon duty supervisors are now part of our CSEA Local Chapter 99, and this job description is to address that change.
Excuse me. These are currently held by incumbents. Is that right?
We do have vacancies in the position, but we, along with CSEA, met with members or met with the employees who were in the positions to give them information about the change as of January 1st. And those who elected to stay in the position were able to stay in the position. Noon duty supervisors is a position that we do see a lot of turnover in those positions, and we are always looking for additional noon duty supervisors. But for those who wanted to stay in the position during the change, they were able to.
Very good. Any questions from the board? Comments? Seeing none, we go to public comment, and we have Kevin Stein.
So hello again. I'm very happy to welcome all of the noon duties into my unit. The process was I'm very active in the state organization of CSE and talking it over. Apparently, we slam dunked it, and other chapters are not having as good a time with working out with their districts. The whole noon duty thing. So I was able to do a cheer rah thing for Martinez, saying, yeah, we just did it at the negotiating table and we're done. And they said, what? And we said, yeah, we're done and they're in our unit. And they said, what? And I went, no, we have a working relationship. We got it done. And so I was very happy to be able to do that. I was also very happy because my friend who's the president of the Berryessa chapter, which is down near Milpitas, she was the one that actually brought forth the resolution at CSEA's annual conference that caused our governmental relations staff to go and craft this bill and get this bill pushed through the legislature. And so it was action of CSEA that made this possible and got these much needed, long overdue rights for this underserved members of workers that work for our school districts, and they're very vital to everything. And I'm so glad to have them in my unit and that they get to enjoy all of the benefits of union membership. And I was really glad that we were able to hammer it out and get going and make it just work perfectly here in Martinez. It's one of the good things that we have with our good working relationship is a lot of these, it makes us very agile when it comes to a lot of these changes that come from the state or whatever. We can just sit down at the table and get it done. We don't have to spend, years and end up in impasse just to get something simple like this done. And so it was a very good job, and I'm very happy that I was able to be a cheerleader and say, yeah, this is great, and my district's doing amazing. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Kevin. I think that's a really great example that when organized labor not only works to bargain collectively, they can also speak with one voice in the political process, which unfortunately some powers in this country would seek to curtail. So thank you very much for that. Back to the board. We have a motion and a second. Student representative,
Aye.
full board. Any opposition? Any abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. 16.8, approval of the Martinez Unified School District schools annual revisions and review of their safe school plans, plural. This is an action item. CJ?
Thank you. These came before the board during the last regularly scheduled meeting. They're here for your approval tonight. I would just add as a note that this is the annual update of these safe school plans. We are still in conversations with our administrators, with our MEA members, with CSEA members about how we can improve safety at our sites in light of recent events. And approving these tonight doesn't mean that we reach a point in the process where we're no longer able to make change. It is just that this is the annual approval of these plans. And if based on further discussion with our stakeholders, we decide to change any of our protocols, any of our practices, as we discussed in the last meeting related to fire drills or something of that nature, all of those changes can still take place. They would be reflected in the site documents and then brought forward at the next annual update for the board to review at that time. I know there's been a lot of questions about practices and procedures related to safety, and I wanted to make sure that the board was aware that at this point in the process, approving them doesn't preclude us from making further or future adjustments as we see fit.
Thank you, CJ. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, we do have public comment. Brenda Navarro. We have two cards for you. We have two cards for you.
Well, it's my dementia.
No problem.
Sorry. I just want to say that we need to constantly think and update these plans. I've read the plans. I'm wondering if there's more of a comprehensive kind of view we might take towards safety, including a mental health component, including talking about communication of high-risk students to the educators and staff. We need to be prepared. I don't feel personally prepared in terms of anything other than a fire drill right now. I'm just being honest. I think teachers and educators have a need for more training, so does all staff, and first aid, and talking about who would do what in terms of if there were injuries and that kind of thing. I think there's a lot to be discussed, and I appreciate CJ opening up the discussion for us. And like you said, this is one plan, but I'm hoping that we look for something more comprehensive so that we can be proactive when we identify students that we feel are high risk and need extra support to make it through our system. So thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Any further comment from the public? Seeing none, back to the board.
We need to do these individually, if we can just do them as a group, is that correct?
This is all one item, I believe.
Thank you. And I would move that we approve our updated school safety plans.
We have a motion and a second. Student representative,
Aye.
full board. Those opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes unanimously. Moving on, 16.9, adoption of resolutions number 2018-23, increasing school facilities fees as authorized by Government Code Section 65995B3. This is an action item. Helen.
I am bringing back the resolution in regards to raising the developer fee for commercial or level 1 developer fee for commercial from 56 cents per square foot to 61 as indicated and demonstrated need in our school facilities need done by Jack Schrader. It was brought 2 weeks ago for information, and I'm bringing it back tonight for possible adoption.
Thank you, Helen. Do we have any questions from the board? Any comment from the public? Back to the board.
I move that we approve resolution number 2018-23.
We have a motion and a second. Student representative,
Aye.
full board. Those opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. On to 16.10, adoption of CSBA updates October 2016, October 2017, and December 2017. This is an action item. CJ.
Thank you. These are here for your action tonight. They came forward at the last meeting. I want to thank the staff members who have prepared them and always recognize Sue Casey, who keeps us all on our CSBA toes with updating our policies.
Yes, thank you, Sue. I
That's
can't even
an
imagine how
important thank
difficult
you,
that is.
because we actually at one time had not updated them for literally years.
And how many times did we have to vote to adopt them, or was it
It
all done in
was
one adoption?
actually a nightmare beyond belief. But that's when the policies were in two binders, like this big each. I still might even have them packed away in a box. But yes, thank you, Sue. It's been really helpful for you to keep us on our toes.
Yeah, I also find them very informative.
Yes, it really is. And the sheets that the staff do
Yep.
are really very well done and helps immensely.
Agreed. Do you have any questions or comments? Additional questions or comments from the board? Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, back to the full board.
I move we adopt the CSBA updates of October 2016, 2017, and December of 2017.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. Student representative,
Aye.
full board.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstention? Motion passes.
In addition to Sue, I should have said, one of the benefits we get from CSBA is actually they do these for us,
That's true.
because the new laws that get passed all the time are very complicated, and for them to actually put sample pieces together is really helpful.
Agreed. We now have agenda item 17, additional comments from the board. It's only applicable if there was insufficient time for speakers under the initial public comment. I don't think we'll need that tonight. On to 18, comments from the superintendent, board members, and
Jonathan,
future
could you
agenda
explain that
items.
to our public member?
yes.
Because I don't think he was here for they were out making copies at the time that you would have said, we don't need any more public comment because.
Oh, understood. So in regular board meetings, if there is insufficient time under the earlier public comment agenda item 14, it rolls over to this later agenda item. But if there is any further comment from the public, we please approach the dais.
Very informative. I think you guys are doing a great thing for the district. I'm born and raised in this town, went to all the schools, start off elementary in Los Angeles and Martinez Junior High, and I was the last year at the original Alhambra High School before they started changing it, and going back to seeing some of the original stuff and seeing some updated stuff. I took all shop classes, and my weight training and physical education started from there and stuff like that. But anyways, my point was, when you look at the transcripts, I was advised by the Alhambra staff there, and the reason why it looks the way it was, because that was the best copy of the microfiche. It wasn't the copy made from that, but it was the best copy because of a flood situation. And it wasn't just my class, it was 89, 90, and 88. Some of the transcripts were messed up. If you look at the very bottom corner, it's very faint, but you'll see where there was a seal at one time that it lifted off, apparently during the water situation that happened with this. And when I first went to the high school, the lady had printed up what is now your guys' data and base system for all this stuff. And she asked me, did I actually ever go to school at Alhambra? And I was like, well, yeah, I spent 6 years of automotive shop and 4 years of high school. I was the smog technician, and I've done stuff for, Coach Heave and stuff like that in wood shop. I was in ceramics and all sorts of stuff. And in fact, my senior year, I only needed to take those 3 courses to graduate. And I first started it off with 7 courses, and I dropped the other 4 because of my mother's passing. It was a lot to deal with at the time. But at the very bottom of this page, it'll say 240 credits required and 240 credits deficient. So it acted like I never went to the school. So I can't even surmise the shock that I went through after already getting my education and almost what you would call a doctorate in the field I'm in, to have to come back and have this done. Let alone I am actually dealing with, and this has nothing to do with you guys, but with a case at Diablo Valley College. Underneath there, they had quite a few years ago, between the 3 regional colleges, had a transcript scandal, and my transcripts got messed up in that as well. And lastly, my certified certificate that I received from a post-secondary school training as a massage therapist, as a healer, is now being challenged by a nonprofit organization. And they never notified me, never notified anything else, but I was very thankful to the lady that actually taught me, because she was actually a state certified teacher, and she had one of the only schools in the Bay Area that were post-secondary, and you had to have an associate's degree to attend that school. I've gone through so many things in my lifetime. I actually went and talked to CJ about a few of the other things. And I don't mean this to get any kind of empathy from any of you, but about 2.5 years ago, well, almost 3 years ago, my little boy was diagnosed with leukemia. And you can actually look over the internet. He was the 6-year-old highway patrol officer for the day. He was all over the news, all over everything. And I've had a few other incidents. That's why I say that this here is really important to me. I don't need the degree, but I would love to have, since I went to Alhambra High School, I went to the Martinez School Districts. I lived here for 22 years and then off and on. But this is always home. And to not be able to have that diploma that says Alhambra High School was something that I need for me. So I ask you, and all I'm asking is for your help so I can have that. That's all I'm doing. I don't need it for functionality anymore, but I want it so my kids can look at it and say, this is where my dad went to school. I right now live in Crockett, so I'm in part of the John Sweat Unified School District. I have always considered Martinez to be home, and I wanted my kids to go to school here. Things didn't happen, finding funds and finances. But I want them to know how much I like the school district and how much I was very proud to go down Alhambra High School, and to have everything taken away from me almost 30 years later was a little bit of a shock. So thank you so much for your time. I'm sorry there wasn't enough allotted beforehand, and I know you guys had so many things to talk about, and that's why I wanted to wait to the very end. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for consideration. CJ has done a good job, but there was only so much he can do, so I have to come to you guys. So that's all I'm asking for. So, and you can contact CJ. He's got my full information, my number, email address, and all that stuff. So again, thank you, CJ. Thank you so much, and thank you to all of you.
Mr. Sells,
Have a wonderful rest of the evening.
And you as well, and thank you for your patience. We do appreciate people coming to address us with their issues, and I think that's a good transition to agenda item 18. This is comments from the superintendent and board members and future agenda items. Start with you, CJ.
Just would echo my remarks and congratulating and thanking our classified employees. Of course, it goes without saying that we want to recognize and honor our incredible certificated teachers as well. Congratulations to Jared and Juliet. I congratulated you last time, but you weren't here. I feel compelled to congratulate you in person on your mock trial success, the national championship for the cheer, and what I know is your incredible work in the classroom on a daily basis. You are making us all very proud, and we are very proud of you. So congratulations and keep up the good work.
Let's move to you, Juliet.
Hi, everyone. I'm back. This is a very long but informational meeting. I had a good time. And I just want to thank everyone for how thoughtful they are and how patient they are, and thank all the employees in this district that work so hard every day to really produce a great educational experience. This week is going to be pretty crazy. On Wednesday, we've got the walkout, which has been kind of a challenge to discuss in classrooms and outside of classrooms. But I think I really appreciate the advice of Mr. Doppy and of Mr. Kamek, and I think that it's going to turn out to be a very constructive event. Thank you all.
Thank you. Kathy?
Well, first of all, I wanted to thank CJ and the rest of the staff for their incredible preparation for the county board meeting that was here around the California voter rights. It was a very long meeting for such a relatively simple topic, but we were the first. So we were the prototype for all the rest of them that they're going to have to do. And if you haven't been to a county board meeting in the past, it's an instructional time. And if you have an opportunity on some other item, go right ahead and go. That's the second or third one I've been to because we had a boundary dispute at one time, and they sit as the county committee. The county board sits as a county committee. That's not true in every county. And my second piece is something completely different. For those of you who don't know or haven't heard, the Santa Rosa High School Concert Choir has been invited to show up at Carnegie Hall. And they have, as you can imagine, they have no money. Many of their students and their families are homeless because of the fires. So they have, and it's going to cost them like $50,000. So they have set up a GoFundMe page, and I hear that San Ramon High School actually sent them some money that they had left over from the Houston choir last year that was invited to go. So if anyone is interested, I have all of the information. It's gofundme.com/SRHSCCTM. So far, they've only raised $12,910 of the $50,000 they need, hopefully by the end of this month. I know we have in the past of our schools have been very supportive of, for instance, the folks in Mendocino and Lake counties who were tragically displaced by their fires. And Santa Rosa High School is near and dear to my heart because I lived in Santa Rosa for many years, and my one of my nephews lives there. So if you have any spare cash laying around, can I ask you to please to help them get to Carnegie Hall? That's quite an honor, and it'd be wonderful for them to be there. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
So, yeah, congratulations, Julia. And I really do encourage that as a district that we do have just an open, honest dialogue on Wednesday. It's a tough issue. And I think the answer is your generation, to be honest. I'm not sure what the answer is, but I think the voice that is being expelled by kids in high school to tackle such a tough issues that even adults can't get their arms around. I commend you, but it is an open dialogue. I hope we here at the board have always maintained an open, honest dialogue. Sometimes we don't agree, but I hope that it is still continued on Wednesday. So my thoughts and prayers are with you.
TJ? Sure, understood. Bobby? Yep. Sure, and understanding that this has been a long meeting, and I do want to express my appreciation to everybody in the room tonight for helping us all get through it. Each and every item, I want to express my congratulations again to our classified employees. On that note, if you would bear with me just a moment, I recently had some sad news of the passing of a dear friend of mine. Her name is Shirley Breyer Black. She was the aunt of Justice Stephen Breyer and the Honorable Charles Breyer. She was a member of mine when I was a classified employee representative working for Service Employees International Union. Shirley was a stay-at-home mom for years and doing the most important job. And then she got active in her PTA. This was in San Francisco. And this was many, many years ago, long before I was born. She became very active in her union as a classified employee. Moving up through the ranks of a union that had been heavily male dominated for decades, she became the first woman to serve as president of then SEIU Local 790. It's now known today as SEIU 1021, where she held the role of president emeritus until her death. She was 100 years old. Shirley was one of my mentors. She was living history. And as this is Women's History Month, I guarantee you that future generations will learn about Shirley Breyer Black. And I would ask that we adjourn tonight's meeting in her honor. Thank you. With that, we shall adjourn the meeting.
The